we are on episode. Oh my gosh, there's raccoons over there. Family of raccoons.
Where?
Ha! Squirrel. Anyways, um, all right. Welcome to episode 008 of the JBR Experience. This is a special one. I think this is going to be a really good episode because she's like my second mom. Tameara Johnson. She has been a staple of my life for so long. I can already feel tears coming. This is going to be
Me
a good
too.
one. But for people that don't know, and I'll let you introduce yourself, but Tameara has been literally a second mom. Like I have not. I mean, growing up with Alec over the years in the sports and just spending nights, and it has always been like your house was the cool house to go to and hang out and be. Um, so this episode is really obviously to kind of go back in time and talk about how we grew up, and really get into the thick of Alec's journey, but from a mom perspective, from a family perspective, and how that's all intertwined and how that's affected you over the years. So I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself to the audience, but there's probably a lot of people that already know you, because we're so intertwined, but go ahead.
So, Tameara Johnson, and I'm mom to Alec Fisher, Jeremy's very best friend since they were knee high to a grasshopper, little kids.
Yeah.
Um, we've had a lifelong relationship, friendship, mother son, always being there for each other, thick or thin, good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
ugly, real ugly sometimes,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I wanted to come. I'm glad that you invited me, and I wanted to come be a part of this because um, it's kind of crazy because a couple of people that you've even had on this podcast, including my son Alec and Naoki Pando, are all a part of Alec's journey.
It
You know what
is.
I mean?
Yeah.
All a part of Alec's story.
Mm-hmm.
Pivotal people in his life, in your
Yeah.
life, in my life, because
Absolutely.
of this journey of addiction that's affected us as a family.
Yeah, I know
Um,
it's it doesn't just affect the person, obviously the person that's going through the addiction and living the streets and that hard times, but
mhm.
I think there's a lot of it doesn't get talked about enough on the second and third effects
Yeah.
of it, you know. So no, I'm super excited. I think we'll just jog it back,
Mhm.
because you do hear as cliche as it is, you do hear addiction does not discriminate.
Yeah.
You could have the most successful person that just gets in that wrong crowd, that wrong scene, or that wrong choice, and it spirals. And
Yeah.
so, from a perspective, and I think this will be kind of cool to like listen because you know, you don't when you grow up, you don't hear the stories of like Alec just walked in the room. Look at that. The smiles just came. Look at that, bud. Um, but you don't get to hear, you don't get a chance to like ask your parents like, how was I as a kid?
Mhm.
You know? So let's just jog it back to that, like
Yeah.
how was, you know, our childhood and
Yeah.
and raising Alec and us and just our, in general.
Well, I think the where I want to start is when we first realized that my son had um a disease. He has arthritis, and he was diagnosed when he was 3 years old with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and 80% of his extremities. It was, a pivotal time in our lives because we didn't really know much about that disease and what caused it, and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things. But he couldn't, he had trouble walking, and he was always really whiny, and we could never figure out why. And then when we finally got the diagnosis and got down to it and got, into children's, he had his first major surgery where he had 60 joints injected when he was 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
and he had fluid taken out of his joints and then injected with steroids to help him just be able to function. And this started his journey of pain and I mean, I look back and I'm shocked and amazed at how much he overcame just as a child
Yeah.
with that disease. He
Well, that
never
was like
ever, yeah,
that was like right around the age when we met,
yeah,
5-ish,
soccer, yeah,
soccer
soccer. And
time.
he had
You
like
know.
he had his first big fall, and I don't know if as a kid if you remember, but he fell and he fell on his knee because his ankle gave out, was weak, and he fell on his knee, and it just caused so much pain for him. He didn't
Right.
break anything, he didn't injure anything, but it was just so painful for him.
Right.
But he, we iced it, we went to the doctor, we did all the things, and he got back up and, kept on going.
That's the one thing I remember, like growing up playing sports.
Mhm.
Alec was like, I specifically remember playing in soccer, like him and I like throwing shoulders
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
getting after it. Like
Yes.
I vividly
Very
remember that.
aggressive.
Yeah, and it just so I guess which really kind of ties into the whole thing. You just don't know
Yeah.
what people are going through.
Mhm.
I mean, as a young kid, you're resilient, and you want to
Yeah.
do the things, and you never would really like look at Alec and think like, okay, well, he just had this
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
surgery and do all these things. But yeah, nonetheless.
And that was
So
my goal as a parent too, is not to, enable him to be weak, to allow him to do things and try things.
right.
And I mean, he even tried out for wrestling at one point, and his doctor, we had a doctor's appointment, and his doctor said, absolutely not. I will
Oh yeah,
not,
yeah.
release him to wrestle because at this point, he had a fused vertebrae in his neck, and he was probably 10, I think, at this point.
Mm,
Um, and the doctor just went down a list of things that he could not do. He could not go tubing. He couldn't wrestle.
real
He
high
couldn't.
contact stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, but he did it anyway. I
yeah.
mean, even when he got older in high school, you guys were
Oh yeah,
snowboarding and
oh
doing all the
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? So, he just didn't set any limitations for himself. Um,
I
and I
think
don't know.
I think the one time where I saw the limitation like firsthand is when him and I both tried out for freshman baseball.
Yeah,
That was when and then he got cut. He didn't
yeah,
make it,
yeah.
and that like hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
hurt my heart because I was like I wanted to play ball with my best friend,
Yeah.
but it was like the physical limitations
Yes.
really showed
Mm-hmm.
its head there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Difficulty swinging the bat, the range of
and
motion of swing. Yeah.
throwing.
Throwing.
I remember all that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was hard for him too. But you know what? Even then, he just is like, all right, I can't play baseball, so I'm going to do golf. And he lettered
and
in golf.
and
Yeah.
it was
Like
so good at it.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, we just always, and growing up, even having you at the house, we had a trampoline and we
Mhm.
had quads and, you guys did all the
A
crazy
pretty
things.
pretty normal
So,
childhood.
yeah,
Like
Beaver
pretty
Cleaver,
like
really.
very
Yeah.
like very middle class kind of modern home childhood growing up.
Yes.
We always went and
Yes.
did things. We like never went without. There was the kind of typical American dream, white picket fence, like
Yes.
family standards.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Did
and
well in school,
so well,
was
yeah.
friends with everybody, just never ever. And even all through school, people didn't know this, his friends didn't know this. I think you did, but I think 3 times a week, he went to OTPT physical therapy
Mhm.
at school.
Yeah.
And he, people would ask him why he was getting pulled out of class, and he'd be like, I'm working on something with the counselor or something. He just didn't want people to know.
Yeah.
And he was good at advocating for himself.
Mhm.
And school was hard for him too, sitting for a long time, writing long essays, but he had an IEP that would give him accommodations if he couldn't finish or if he couldn't do this. And he never,
The
ever,
dude had a 4.0.
ever,
Like
yes, he was,
he
he
was
was
the
an
only
academic scholar.
he was
Yeah.
the only reason I took the one AP class,
Right.
AP Environmental Science,
Yeah.
and I got like a D plus. So Alec,
That's because Alec was helping you.
I
Yeah.
sucked at school. I was so bad at school, and then
Yeah.
yeah. So no, so that all ties into just really kind of setting the tone of like so much normalcy,
Yeah, I mean, a
essentially.
mom and dad, a very supportive mom and
You
dad.
know,
And like you said, we were the house that everybody came
yeah.
to. Uh, Kids always at our
I
house,
want to know.
staying the night. You
Yeah,
were always at our house.
constantly.
Um, my husband, Alec's dad at the time, was, just amazing with you boys. And I would just have to not look sometimes because, I mean, I remember coming home one time and I was getting ready to cook dinner and you guys were jumping off the house onto the trampoline
I
and I
remember
could see you out
that.
the window. And I was like, oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah. No,
But
it was a yeah, fun. So many fun memories, so many fun like childhood
yeah,
stuff. So to kind of like, that again, that like sets the tone because I
yes.
think as a parent, like I'm a dad of 4 now. It's like, and I feel like my kids have a very kind of normal life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would never think, or
Yeah.
you would never, your mind doesn't even go to that far of like, yeah, well, I think my son's on the wrong road.
Right.
He's on the wrong path right now
Right.
because he wasn't.
Mm-mm.
Like, I mean, voted most likely to succeed in high school.
Yeah, everybody liked
You
him.
know, great at
Prom.
golf. Like we had our small knit group of friends that we always hung out with.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't party. We didn't drink.
Nope.
We didn't do outlandish, crazy shit.
No, just very typical,
Yeah, we
teen boy
stuck to
stuff.
ourselves.
Yeah.
You know.
You guys had a great little group of friends. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like with my younger son, his younger brother, who's 2 years and 4 months younger than he is, and he was kind of included in that group with some of his friends too. It was just a great little group of
Yeah.
kids. And it's funny because if you were to ask me, you know, 25 years ago, somebody would say to me, your son's going to be an addict. Which one do you think it's going to be? Hands down, I would have chosen Dalton
Dalton was a wild
because he
child.
was a wild child. He was
Yeah.
a fly by the seat of my pants. Do it now. Think
Yeah.
about it later, kid.
Yeah.
He wasn't a bad kid. He didn't get into trouble, but
He was.
he was just kind of a class clown.
He was.
And
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People would talk him into doing stupid stuff. And never in a million years would I ever have imagined that it would have been my son, Alec.
Yeah.
And not only that, Alec and I have well, I have a really good relationship, wonderful relationship with both my boys. But Alec and I have the most amazing relationship,
Yeah.
and always have.
You guys have always been close.
Yeah,
Super close. Yeah.
which is the reason why you and I are close because you spent a lot of time at my house, and I watched you go through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
With your dad, and all of that stuff. But yeah, I just, and like you said, it goes back to addiction doesn't discriminate. He comes from a middle class family, very positive upbringing.
Church
Just
upbringing.
yes,
Even.
in the church. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was raised in the church too,
Mm.
and I'm thankful for that because to this day, he still has a strong foundation of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So to kind of, because I remember like we graduated high school and that's where we split ways, right? Like I went off to the Marine Corps.
mm-hmm.
He's going to college. He's doing his thing. And I was gone for 11 years. Pretty much his whole addiction, really close.
Well, and just let me say that when you got married and you left for the military and you did all that stuff, because he went to your graduation,
Yeah.
right?
At boot camp. Yeah.
That was,
I didn't know he was going to either. That was that was the biggest
yeah,
surprise
that was
ever.
awesome.
Yeah.
But that was a really pivotal time too, because when I look back, I can look back now and I can pinpoint all of the things, all of the trauma pieces that were in his life. That was one of the first trauma pieces in his life. Like you guys were inseparable. You guys did everything together. And it was even though he acted like it was no big deal, it was tough on him. He would tell me how much he missed you and he still had his friends and stuff here like Colby and all of those guys, but there was that missing puzzle piece that he really missed, and he never really talked about it all that much. Every once in a while he'd bring you up. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. But like I said, going back to pinpointing these and learning about addiction and his journey, that was like the first piece of, his trauma. And, it's not necessarily trauma, but it's pain, right? It's pain. And as a young kid, you don't, you try to overcome it. You just kind of move on and it just sits there. And then, shortly after that, a few years after that, my mom died. And I was in a real bitter divorce with the man that he called dad. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that happened, you know, in such a way that he, like his first addiction was a gym. That's how he dealt with his frustration and
Yeah.
his anger and, you know, all of that, because he was very angry at, you know, his dad. And it was tough. It was really tough, really, for both of my boys. Dalton was 16 at the time, going on 17. Alec was 18. You know, he'd gone to college and he came back because of all the stuff that we were going through. Um, and that was really tough. And then, you know, he kind of got his footing, got acclimated, you know. Mom had to be strong and say, look, I got this. We're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. He had a little sister that he adored, you know, spent a lot of time with her. All of
Mm-hmm.
you guys did, really, when she
Yeah.
was little.
Yeah.
I have a ton of pictures of you boys with that little girl just crawling up on your laps. I remember one time, I think she came over and she was butt naked and she
I
crawled up in
remember.
your lap.
I was like, what
Yeah.
do I do?
Yeah.
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 I remember that.
I think it was potty training days or something, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just always a part of our life. And, you know, so we got through that time together, but it still was that pain. It still was another addition to that pain. And when my mom died, who was the glue that kept us together, even through my divorce and, you know, Alec's physical disability and all of the things, that was when I spiraled. And I think my kids did not know what to do, because mama
Right.
was always the strong one. And she was always like, we're going to do this. We're going to be okay. And you know, I just I was not there for my kids. You know, and then shortly after that, he had that injury where
Mm.
he broke his collarbone, a fluke accident. Him and his buddies were wrestling, and he got his collarbone accidentally broken, and it was just crazy. And he was out at the flight school, you know, doing all the things, working out at Genie, had $10,000 in the bank. You know, I mean, he had a
Well,
lot of really good things going on.
and he had mentioned too, like with that, because when we did his podcast, that injury and the opioids
Mm-hmm.
that were
That's where it
given to
began.
him
Mm-hmm.
on in a copious amounts
Yes.
with and so he said he got used to just
Yeah. And,
numbing
you
the
know,
pain.
he was stubborn. He wouldn't wear a sling. So his shoulder wasn't healing right. With his arthritis, it was causing more
Mm.
pain. Um, and so, yeah. And the doctor just kept prescribing him medication, months and months of this medication that he was taking. And
Right.
I didn't recognize it. You know, he was living with me at the time, um, with his girlfriend. And um, the doctor got his license removed. And
Mm.
it kind of made Alec, you know, cut him off cold turkey. And at that time, he was working at Genie, and there was a buddy who got him connected with a buddy who had, you know, under the table OxyContin, and he just kept on using until, you know, and it was expensive. It
Right.
was expensive. You know, and he was going through his savings and feeling really frustrated. And then he got called for a random UA at Genie and pop positive for the oxys. And he said, yeah, you know, I've got a prescription because of my arthritis. And they were like, well, just bring it in. And, you know, if you have it, we have to tell you, you can't take it while you're working. So if
Right.
you need some time off, blah, blah, blah. Um, and he couldn't bring in a prescription and lost his job.
Yeah.
And that was devastating for him. And from that moment, things just started to spiral.
Yeah.
Um, and he lost himself in addiction and was introduced to heroin, was going to somebody's house to get more pills. And, you know, one of the guys there that he was waiting with was doing heroin. And he's like, you want to try this stuff? And Alec's like, no, I think I'll wait, you know. And he's like, it's really good stuff. And Alec gave it a try, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
But it's I try to think back of like just like that one split second decision.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of people just don't talk about, is that one decision. I've
Yeah.
asked everyone that has been in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
Noki, Crystal, Vince, everyone that's been on the podcast that have had that dark time in their life. I
Yeah.
try to pinpoint. I asked them, like, where's that one point that you could think back of, like, where you knew
Yeah.
that was a tipping scale,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always kind of been a consensus of like a simple spur of the moment
Yeah.
decision
Yeah.
that has completely derailed and completely projected their path
Yeah.
into the dark side.
Yeah. Well, and people say, well, functioning. He was a functioning addict.
He
Like
talked
he
about that a
was,
lot. Yeah.
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 Like, and I did not have a clue. I did not have a clue. Um, because he was, to me, he was pretty normal. He was going to work every day. He was going to school. He was doing all the things. And
He was still doing it.
yeah, until he hit that rock bottom place, and then he just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I just at that point, I still didn't know really anything about addiction. I didn't know that he was addicted. I didn't know what heroin was. I'd never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
We were just not in that mindset at all ever, where drugs and alcohol were an issue.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
because you go back to our childhood. Like
yeah,
we never did.
yeah. I don't
We
drink.
weren't
I don't
yeah,
smoke.
we weren't part of the
Yeah.
party scene. We weren't
Mm-mm.
the first time we ever got drunk was after high school.
Yeah, after high school,
And
and
it
I
was like,
even knew about that.
yeah, and it was
Yeah,
like the one time, like, dude,
yeah,
I'm never doing that again. To this day, I think that night ruined. I
yeah.
don't drink beer because of
Right,
that night.
right,
I
right.
just don't.
Yeah.
And it's like
And he's
we
never really been a drinker either, like
drinking. I
ever.
mean, we never. I don't. In my entire life, I've never even tried a cigarette.
Yeah, me either.
I've never even.
Actually, that's not true. I tried it once and threw up, and
I've
then
never
that was
even
it.
smoked weed to this day.
Me either. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we did not.
Mm-mm.
You could even look back to some people that probably have grew up around that lifestyle and stuff, and they didn't become an addict.
Right.
They didn't go
Right.
that way.
Right.
And it's very, like, you just never
Yeah.
know truly.
Well, I'm a social worker, and I work, and I think this is my journey too, with dealing with my son's addiction, and because of my journey with that, I'm able to help my parents that I'm working with, because I get it,
You have a
and I've been
firsthand
there.
experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but just
So
it's
so to like, because he was, well, in active addiction on the streets for over a decade,
yeah, well over a
12
decade.
12
12.
years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I was in the Marine Corps for 11.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And I remember talking to you and having
yeah, and I
conversations.
felt so
Yeah.
helpless because I
Yeah.
mean I was away. I
Yeah.
wasn't here. I would come home once a year.
Yeah.
And when I would come home, I'd get pulled 10 million different directions to see everyone.
Yeah.
And so I guess, like, for you as mom, as me and Alec call you, Momma Bear. We
Mm-hmm.
say that all the time, but because what did you do in all those times? Because I mean, he tried to get clean multiple times, like 7 times, I think it was, that
Yeah.
we talked about. And do you feel like each time that he got clean and relapsed, did you feel more and more defeated every
Yeah, it
time?
was. So I remember the first time he went into treatment, it was a faith-based program in Seattle called Victory Outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And it was free, didn't cost us anything. And he was just in a really bad place, and we got him there, and there was no medical detox. Like, he detoxed at that home, being prayed over, just taken through the ringer. And he got clean and sober after there was a blackout period, so he couldn't talk. But after he got through the blackout period and called me, I could not believe. I was so excited because I had my Alec back. He
The
sounded like himself.
the
He was
spark behind his
excited. He
voice,
was
yeah.
feeling good. He had gained weight. And then we learned that we could visit him, that he could have visitors after certain periods. So we waited,
Mm-hmm.
and we went over once a month. We went over there to visit him. And it was just, we went to the church that he went to, and he went on this mission. I can't remember exactly where it was. And they did like a whole, there was a whole video on it that went out to all the churches about, just his experience of being on that mountain and giving it all to God. And he was just on fire for Jesus. And it was just a wonderful thing.
And what year, or, like, do you
So
remember what
that
year that
was,
was?
yes. So that was, I believe that was 2014. 2014. Because Grace
No.
was born in 2008. And when Alec went into active addiction, she was 3, almost 4, when my mom died.
because I was on deployment in 2013, and he was
So
right,
maybe it was
and he
2013
was writing
then.
me letters, and that's when he sent me that
Yeah.
dollar bill I keep in my wallet.
Yes. So
I still have.
it was 2013
Yeah,
then.
because he was
Yeah.
still he was clean
Yeah.
then. Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, it was
yeah.
2013 to 2014 because eventually he became the lead of the house and was, doing all of the office work and all of that stuff. And his dad was living over in Seattle and his grandma, and they exited him out of the program early because he was doing so well.
Mm,
Um, and he got a job at a flight place over there in Bremerton
yeah.
and was just like he was killing it,
Mm-hmm.
really killing it. Met a girl, sweet girl, loved her, 2 children, just an amazing little family. But she had troubles with the dad, the ex, and it just things got kind of ugly, and they got into a big fight, and she kicked him out, and that was
As I say, and then that was
relapse number 2.
the
Yeah,
spiral.
yeah,
Yeah,
the spiral.
yeah.
And he never he stayed over there for a while, and he got a car, and he ended up getting pulled. Well, a cop pulled over on the side of the road because he had gotten high. He pulled over on the side of the road to get high and had a foil sitting in his lap, passed out in his car, and a cop came and put him in jail. Took his car to the
The tow yard.
yeah, to the tow yard, and he called his dad and said, "Hey," before they took it, he said, "Hey, can you come? I'm going to jail. Can you please come get my car?"
Yeah,
And his dad
yeah.
said, "Nope, you reap what
You're
you sow."
you're gonna have to learn from this one, son. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And
Remember that.
I couldn't because I had Grace, and it was the passes were snowy, and I was like, "There's no way I can come over
Mm.
there and get it." So yeah, and that was he was brought back to Moses Lake because he had some warrants. That's the main reason why he was arrested, is there was a warrant out for his arrest.
Ran his name. Yeah.
And so he was in jail in Ephrata, and he got out, and he at that point, I think that he was pretty sober. At least I thought he was. And then he came and stayed with me. He came and lived with me for a little bit. Um, and then one night, middle of the night, I heard noise in the bathroom, and it was just weird. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went in there, and he was getting high. He had a piece of foil and was getting high, and
So did you kick him out at that
I
point?
did. And I will tell you,
It's probably the hardest
it
thing.
was it was February. It was cold, really, really cold. And my mind, this is as a mom, I was like, your sister is right there in the next room. What if she had gotten up to go potty and came in and saw you doing what you were doing? I was livid, and that I was just red. And I was like, pack your crap and get out. And I grabbed his suitcase and I started throwing stuff in it, and he was begging me, "I don't have anywhere to go, Mom. Please don't make me go." And I said, "I need you to leave. I need you to go." And I watched him walk down the sidewalk with his suitcase,
Oh fuck.
and I cried for days. And I didn't hear from him for a while after that, but that was probably one of the most, it killed me.
Yeah.
It killed me. And I think I remember trying to call you too. But I think you were, I don't remember, I couldn't get a hold of you. I didn't know what to do. And yeah, that was one of the most difficult times
I
in my life.
honestly think like those hard ass decisions like that are the tough love that unfortunately he probably needed.
And
He didn't know
honestly,
that, and it I recently came across this Bible verse, John 13:7. You may not know what I'm doing now, but later you will.
yeah,
Right? I'm gonna get it tattooed on me.
yeah,
But it's like in that moment, you made a decision to obviously protect the home, like, whatever. But in that moment, he probably thought, "F you."
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah. He
you're
was very
you're
angry.
essentially dead to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You may
But
not know what the people that love you are
mhm.
doing in that moment to make the decision to not give money, to not do the things, but later you will. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you know that now,
Yeah.
you know. But I couldn't like so that was a huge pivotal
Yeah. Well, and you
decision.
got to think about it too, Jeremy. Like I had to make that decision because at that time, if my ex-husband knew that he had used in
Yeah,
my house, he would have
yeah,
yanked my daughter,
yeah.
and I had full custody of her. And I have to, at this point, as much love as I had for my child, Alec, I had to protect the one that was
So
the most
young and growing
vulnerable.
up
You know what
and
I mean?
yeah,
Like, and as a mom, when you have to choose
choose. Yeah.
between two children that you love with your entire being, that was the hardest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that he would be okay, prayed that he would be okay. And I knew that I could not expose my daughter to that. At this point, I have protected her from this.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know her brother's an addict. She loved her brother. I mean, absolutely loved him.
And the repercussions of her waking up and he's gone too,
Yeah, and I
right?
just had to tell
Like
her that he went to go stay with some friends. I mean, I tried to protect her as best I could. And then he was that was a very long period of time where he was out on the street kind of running amok, and he ended up getting a job at I think Home Depot. Was that the time that he was working at Home Depot?
that was a very short stint, I think.
Yeah. Well, this period of time was really long until he ended up. We tried to get him, Dalton and I tried to get him into Victory Outreach in Tri Cities.
Mm.
And we actually went and got him, picked him up, and he said he was going to go, went to Tri Cities. He was there for one day and left. And then he
Mm.
had somebody come and pick him up and bring him back here.
Yeah.
Um, and I still, at that time in my life as a mom, I didn't know that much about addiction. Like, I didn't know. He would text me and ask me to give him $10. And I would give him $10. He'd text me and say, can I have 20 bucks to put in my friend's gas tank because we're going to, we got to go get groceries or
It
whatever.
was always led with like a pretty justifiable excuse
Yeah. Yeah.
because
And,
he'd do the same thing. He'd reach out to
mhm,
me, hey man, like I'm about to get my temporary disability, but I'm a few bucks short on some food or
yeah.
some groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and then it like you like it's weird. It's a weird feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you like as my best friend, love him to death,
Yes.
would do anything for him,
Right.
you know, and but you soon to learn like you can't do that
Mm-hmm.
because it's enabling.
Yeah.
And like when I moved home, I went through all my shit and then got my stuff together and then was able to really focus
Mm-hmm.
and help you and
Right.
try to help him. There was a lot of times where he would reach out and, brother, no, I'll pick you up though. I'll pick you up. You want me to get you food? You want me to
Yep.
get you some Burger King? You know? And no, bro, I just really need this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you, dog.
Yeah.
You know? And it was and for me in that time frame, there was a lot of people reaching out to me
Mm-hmm.
about Alec because they
Mm-hmm.
obviously knew that we were best friends.
Yeah.
David, I mean, so many people that we all went to school with,
Right.
and it's like, and I had to tell him the hard truth.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the streets right now.
Yeah.
If he's asking you for money, tell him you love him.
Yep.
Tell him you'll bring him some food.
Yeah.
And love him from a distance. And that was, it was just like shitty. Like I hated doing that,
Yeah. It
you
was
know?
hard. And even there was a time period too, in the midst of this journey that one of his good friends, Colby, um, he had gotten clean. I think he had gone to jail again, I want to say. And yeah, he did. He'd gotten to jail for a warrant, and Colby went and picked him up, and he's like, this is effing it. Like, you're coming with me. You're going to get clean and sober, and we're going to do this together. And
Yeah.
so he went and he was living with Colby. Do you remember that, Alec? He was living with Colby, and Colby Alec was getting money. He had like funds and stuff, and Colby kept it all. He kept it in his wallet. He kept, would put it in his account, much like, what you did when
Right.
all the process. Um, and Alec did great. Like they went fishing together, and we had our Alec back. You know, um, it was just the most amazing thing. And going back to the whole girl thing, and I tell Alec this too. That's why I'm so happy that he's decided to just really really focus on himself and getting well,
Mm.
because every single relapse that he's had has had to do with a female.
A heartbreak.
A heartbreak,
Yeah.
yeah. And he ended up being in a relationship with this gal, and um I can't even remember what happened,
But
but
I think, and this is just me learning the process of addiction and, being there. But I think it just kind of goes back to, um, you're in pain.
mm-hmm.
You're in pain. You just want the pain to stop.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
what do I know?
Yes.
And I know this,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that sucks. It's
Yeah.
hard because it's like, here we go again.
Yeah.
I think there was a
Yeah.
lot of times where, you and I talked, and it's just like, fuck,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
I
And
always thought in my back of my mind, I'm like, is this going to be the last time?
yeah.
Is this going to be like
Am I going to get a phone call at 1 o'clock in the
where
morning and it's
he's,
going to be my son? you know.
yeah,
And
or,
I did get that phone call. I did get that phone call. I'm sure you remember this, um, from one of his buddies, and they said
yeah,
you need to come get Alec. He's not breathing right.
when he was in
Um,
that hotel.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, call an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
Call a freaking ambulance. I'll meet them at the hospital. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that because we don't want that trouble here. We don't want to
Yeah.
get kicked out. And so I went and got him. I had to leave work, went and got him. My daughter was in school, and he was maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And he was struggling to breathe. And they had to carry him down in a chair, like
That
a
was the time.
plastic.
That was the time when he went
Yeah.
septic.
So he,
Yeah.
so we got to the hospital and we sat there. Um, we sat there in that hospital emergency room waiting for, and let me just be honest. Alec looked disgusting. He had dirty clothes on. He
Mm-hmm.
was 97 pounds soaking
He
wet.
looked like an addict.
His hands were dirty. His face was dirty. His hair was greasy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
I
we
remember.
sat there for like close to 4 hours until he was literally like trying to breathe, and I was panicking, and all of these people were getting helped. They would come in, they would get helped, and it was like it was like he was being judged. He's an addict. He's just an addict. He's just withdrawing. I
when
ran up to
he's
that
when
desk
he's
and I
literally
said, yes,
dying.
I said, my son cannot breathe. You have to help him. And they came out, wheeled him back there, got him on the table, got him hooked up to all the monitors, right? And they immediately laid him back. Like all these people were in the room, and they laid him back, and they started shoving these things down his throat.
Yeah.
And these alarms were going off. And I thought my son was dying. And at that moment, I'm praying to God with everything. And it was during COVID too. So they almost didn't let me back.
Yeah.
And I put a mask on, and I'm like, I need to be with my son. I don't want to, if he's going to die, I want to be with him. I don't want him to be alone.
Mm.
So they let me back there, and they're doing all of this stuff. And he's, they put him in a self-induced coma at that moment. And they're breathing for him. And then they tell me we're going to have to life flight him to Sacred Heart in Spokane.
I remember all that. Yeah.
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 And I literally hit my knees on the floor in the hospital room, screaming, please don't let my son die. Sorry. And they got him, they got him over to the hospital, and, they did a COVID test. He didn't have COVID because that's what they thought it was. But his body was just
Was
in
shutting down.
shock, and it was shutting down.
Yeah.
And it turns out that his body was septic. He had an infection in his knee from his arthritis that had gotten so exacerbated that it became septic, and it had gotten into his bloodstream and was shutting all of his organs and stuff down, which is how my mom died. And they wouldn't let me in the hospital over in Sacred Heart. I couldn't see him. I couldn't talk to him. I went over, my church paid for me to go over and stay in a hotel so I could be near him. Um, and then they had him in a coma, and they had to go in and cut his knee open. He had 47 stitches to get all of that out.
I remember for the longest time, actually, in my phone, I had Alec's hospital room. His number saved in my phone.
Yeah.
Because I remember once he got through all that, like the doctor essentially said, like, you're septic, meningitis, you had all of these things going on, and
lost his hearing.
The doctor was like, I have no idea how you're even alive.
Yeah. They did not anticipate him living. Right. They absolutely did not. And they said that to me many times.
But I remember him coming to and waking up, and I think I probably still have the picture on my phone somewhere.
I do. I have
he's like smiling in his hospital bed.
Yeah. And I will say this too. He had the most amazing medical team, medical staff, nurses. And when he finally did wake up, they would allow him to FaceTime. And I have many pictures of FaceTiming him with family. And I remember being over in Spokane with my nieces and nephew and Ashley and my sister. And we were all so excited to see him and to see him smiling and feeling good.
And then what's even crazy about all of that, to go through all of that and essentially almost lose him.
Yeah.
That wasn't the last time that he relapsed.
No. And we had this conversation. We're like, and he even talked about it. He's like, I'm done. That was it for me. Like, and we thought, you almost died. Like, this is the pivotal moment in life where he says, I ain't ever freaking touching that stuff ever. You know what I mean?
But it wasn't.
No. And it was, that's kind of when you were going through a really dark time too. And I remember bringing him home. And he was recovering at home, and he had to do physical therapy, and it was on medication. And I remember one night you were going through some serious hell, and I scooped my daughter up in the car. Alec couldn't because he was on the sofa. He was on medication, half asleep. And I went to you, and as your mom, it was really hard for me to see you going through that too, knowing that I've got a son at home that's trying to get well, and then I've got this other son, because I consider you my baby, my son. And you were going through it, and it was rough. And I wasn't sure if you were going to be alive. I mean, it was just had gotten to that very deep, very dark place where nobody could console you. And
that was.
And I remember being at your house, and you wanted to call Alec. You like, I need Alec. I want to talk to Alec. So we called him, and you were crying on your knees. I need you here. I need you, Alec. I need you here. And Alec's like, I just
took my sleeping meds, man. I can't.
Yeah. He's like, I'm barely awake. He goes, but he was telling you, bro, like, I'm going to come see you tomorrow, and, we're going to get through this. We're going to work it out. And he was just, in a really good place in his mind and his heart. And, we all worked through that with you. And that wasn't it for you either. But, I mean, as far as Alec is concerned, that was, that was the time when he was clean and sober, and he was there for you. And he really did the best that he could to be there for you. But he relapsed, 3 months, maybe not even 3 months after that.
Yeah, because that was the time.
We went and got his car back, remember?
Yeah.
He had gotten COVID money or something, and we went and got his car back, Dalton and I and him. And found out that he had relapsed. So, and he hadn't re-registered, he hadn't registered in his name. So it was still registered in this other person's name that lived over in Spokane. So we told her, we said, you know, we're going to have Alec meet us and you're going to come get it and take it.
Yeah.
And she came and got it and took
Right.
it back to Spokane. And
So
he
like,
was freaking out, thinking
yeah.
somebody stole his car. And we set the whole thing up because
Right.
we wanted to take away, you know, his transfer. Not, I mean, we're trying to help, really. Our
Yeah.
mentality was like, if he doesn't have a vehicle, he's not going to be able to
Well,
get.
it always seemed like when he got mobile, that's when things
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I guess like, what kind of advice would you give? Because I've been asked this, you know, I've since starting the podcast and really getting into
Mm-hmm.
people's stories, especially with recovery stories. I've had sisters of addicts reach out.
Yeah.
I've had, siblings of addicts and family members of addicts that are like, you know, hey, I listened to Alec's story, or I
Mm-hmm.
listened to this person's story, and it's
Yeah.
like I could really relate to that because my brother or my whatever is an
Mm-hmm.
addict too, and so having to go through, and we're not even towards the end of it, but it's
Yeah.
like he still relapsed, went back to the streets, I think two or three times after that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so it's like it became a pattern, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You get better for a few months, and then it would like right, whether it be a heartbreak, whether it be something that
Right.
happened, and it would
Mm-hmm.
be right back to it.
Yeah.
And so, as roller coaster as that is for his life and his health and everything else, there's the thing that doesn't get talked about is how much emotional roller coaster and craziness that
Yes.
causes you, the
Mm-hmm.
mom, the best friend, the brother, the sister,
Yeah.
whoever,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So like, what kind of advice would you give someone that is a family member
Right.
that's going through that?
Yeah. So I love this question because I was approached by a gal at my church. But let me just start with this. When I started to recognize that this was an issue, like a big issue, and it wasn't going away, I started to learn about it. I started to study it. I started, I just was wanting as much information as I could so that I could understand
Mm.
why he was choosing this,
Mm.
and it comes down to, he, because of his, his genetic makeup, is predisposed to addiction. There's addiction on both sides of our family. Addiction is also a disease. And, when you have a disease, you have to choose, just like cancer, or just like, with him and his arthritis, you have to choose the treatment. You have
Mm.
to choose that you want to get better. You know what I mean? And that you're tired of living this life. But as a mom, if I were to offer any advice, and I've been through the whole gamut of steps until I've gotten to this point. And in the beginning, I didn't know what addiction was, and I didn't know that he was really even an addict or how deep he was into it. So, giving him money and taking him from point A to point B, and basically enabling him.
Because you think you're helping.
You think you're helping,
Yeah.
but really you're enabling them.
Right.
And my advice would be, don't do that. You if your loved one is in active addiction and out on the streets, and I mean, I'm telling you, Alec has stolen from me. He's, gotten into my wallet, my bank account, stolen things from our home, stolen an iPad from his sister, her, all of the things. So I've been angry, and I've been frustrated, and I've been hurt. And so is his siblings, his brother and his sister,
Mm.
But one of the things that I say is, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When I talk to my daughter, I'm like, that is not your brother. That is the addict. That
Yeah.
is the addict brain. And so
And
I
it's
would
so
say,
hard to separate those two.
yes, it's so
It.
hard to
Yeah.
recognize that you have to create those healthy boundaries as a mom,
Mm.
as someone. He made me a mom.
Yeah.
He was my firstborn.
Mm.
And not only that, he had this physical condition that just limited him with so many things through his life. So, I was that go-to mom that's going to be the strong mom and is going to get my kids through this stuff, right?
Mm.
So I would say the best advice that I could give any family member, whether it's a parent or a cousin or a sibling or grandparents, this is my advice. love them where they are. Love them where they are, because deep inside of that addict is still that person.
Mm.
And I didn't ever, I prayed over them always, and pray over them. If you, whatever you do, don't give up hope, you know, don't give up hope. Love them where they are. If they come to you asking you for money because they want to buy food, buy the food. If
Mm.
they say they're hungry, feed them.
Or if
If,
I don't have shoes, can I
yeah,
have money for shoes? Go buy
yes,
them shoes.
yes. And
Yeah.
if they're cold, many times I would go out to the places where Alec and I don't even want to talk. That's a whole nother podcast talking about the living
Oh,
situations.
you and I have been on a couple manhunts,
Yes.
going through
Yeah.
some knocking on
Yeah. Knocking
doors.
on doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You, the
Pla-
big burly
I
guy
just say
standing in front
places
of mom.
where I'm like, hey, you need to stay in the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
And I'm the mom going, no, I'm going to go with
Yeah.
you.
Or you could stand behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that quite a few times, you and I, looking for our boy,
Mm.
and wanting to. One of the times was when he stole from his sister, and you were really angry about that. You
Oh,
were
I've told him I was
freaking
gonna.
pissed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and super fired up, and you're like, when I see him, I'm gonna kick his
I'm
ass.
gonna hurt him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
Hurt him with love, though. It's fine.
we didn't ever find him,
No.
and went looking. The one time when he, which was this last time, but yeah, just love them where they're at. I've had conversations with my
And
family.
and to not to interrupt, but I
Yeah.
think that's when you say love them where they're at. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean love them for where they should be. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean where you want them to be.
Right.
If they're down on the streets and they're grimy, they're dirty, love them because of who they are
Oh yeah.
and not what they've done.
Yes. Or what they
Right?
look like, or what they smell
Yeah.
like. You know what I
No.
mean? I can't tell you how many times I've hugged my child when he hasn't showered for months on months, and
Because if there was any point in time through all that stuff when I was home and he'd hit me up, hey, bro, can I just come to your house and shower? Hell yeah. Where you at?
yes. Yeah.
Yep. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So I think that's really important for people to
Yeah. Feed
understand.
them. In the winter, I was going to tell you, I would go out to these places where he lived and bring him a sleeping bag and bring him a coat and gloves and hats. And I did that many times. At Christmas time, and this was my personal choice, but like at Christmas time or birthdays, he was always at my house for Christmas, and he was always at my house for Thanksgiving, because I wanted to show him that no matter where you're at in your life, no matter who you're hanging out with, no
We're
matter
still
what
here.
choices you're making, we are still here, and
Yes.
you are equally as loved and equally as valued. And I would buy him, he's a shoe guy,
Oh, yeah.
brand new shoes. I'd say, what kind of, what shoes do you want? Give me a couple choices. And I would get him gift cards to McDonald's and Subway and all the places that he loved to eat for Christmas. And I would say probably 98.8% of the time he would sell it,
But it's still the gesture and
but
thought of it.
I never
Mm.
wanted him to feel like he was less of a child of mine,
Mm.
or even a child of God, than he was. Because no matter what circumstance he was in, no matter where he was at in his life, I didn't ever want to leave this world, or for him to leave this world, because we didn't know, right? Like,
Mm.
when are you going to get that call at 1:00 in the morning? And I did not want to lose my son and have regrets of things that I could have or should have done for him.
Yeah.
And that was my way of loving him where I could love him.
Mm.
And I don't regret that. And I mean, if it were to happen again, and I pray to God it's not, he's in a really good place, I would do it again.
Yep.
And the other advice that I would give is, they have to choose it. They have to be in a place where they want to leave that life behind.
I would totally agree with that. You can't force them.
No.
You
And
can't.
I think, honestly, Jeremy, I think a lot of the times that he got clean and sober when he went to these, facilities and got clean and sober was because of me, or because of you, or because of us.
You
Because
wanted it.
he wanted me to be happy. I'm going to do this for my
My
mom.
mom, not me.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because the night that we found him,
Yes.
he told us when he pulled out that vial of fentanyl pills
Mm-hmm.
that if you wouldn't have found me,
Yeah.
I was going to eat these
Yes.
and be done.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that, I think that was him saying, "Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God you found me."
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, you can't. You could jog that all the way back to our childhood and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. You cannot do it for
Yeah.
your selfish reasons. You can't be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, I want my son back."
Yeah.
Of course, I've wanted my best friend back. For many fucking years. But he got clean for himself,
Yes.
and it was all us was a byproduct.
Yes. And that's it too. The moment that he told us that he was ready, he told us,
Mm-hmm.
that's my other advice. Be freaking ready.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready. You and we were on it. We called Noki. I called my friend Josh, who I met through Alec from an Oxford house, and we jumped on it. When they say they're ready, you have to be ready that minute.
And you have to drop
You
everything.
have to drop
Yeah.
everything. If I could give families advice, husbands, wives, grandparents, mothers, sisters, brothers, when they say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I need help, be ready.
And you also have to, because that's not the first time we've heard it,
No.
right?
Yeah.
That's not. It's you can't be in the mindset of like, well, you've said that
You've said
before.
that before.
Now you're now the boy that cried wolf.
Yes.
You can't
Yeah.
you
You
can't
can't
do
have
it.
that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And as much hurt and pain and disappointment and frustration, and I mean, this has been a 12-year journey for me as a parent, as a mom. Never once ever did I say, well, you've said that before.
Yeah.
You've gotten clean before. What's different now?
Imagine if you did that.
We wouldn't have Alec.
Yeah.
We would not have Alec.
Yeah.
He
Because
would not be with us today.
him and I have had conversations on our road trips, and and
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing we've always enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
Because you guys have been on boards. There, like in here in our community, the big topic is homelessness and the drugs,
Right.
and there's
Mm-hmm.
so much controversy behind it. There's so much like so many people have their opinions. Oh, they made the choice. They did this. It's their life.
Mm-hmm.
They could do whatever the hell they like. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
negativity behind it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I always raise the question of like, there's so many people out there on the streets that don't have the family member
Yes.
that is ready
Yes.
because they've all written them off.
Yes.
So I think that's been I mean, not to be like selfish about it, but I think Alec we've loved him where he's at
Mm-hmm.
over all the 12 years.
Yes.
And it's always never been, we've never written him off. It's never been like, I've never judged him.
Yeah.
I've been angry.
Yeah.
We've been angry.
Yeah.
I've wanted to fucking hunt him down
Mm-hmm.
many times.
Yeah.
But the most rewarding fucking time was when he walked down the aisle at my wedding. you know?
Mm. And
But
many people at that wedding didn't know the story behind that, and the things that Alec endured to be there on that day. You and I do.
mm-hmm.
Your wife and the people that are closest to us do.
Yeah.
But your wedding had been planned for a while, and he kept saying, I'm gonna be there.
That was the one
Yes.
time that he stuck to his word.
Yes.
In the 12 years
Yeah.
of his journey and his story and being on the streets, that was the one time that it mattered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think from my perspective too, I am so thankful, so grateful for you.
and your love and your friendship. But not only that for me, because since you've been home, I haven't had to do this alone. It's been a very lonely, journey. And I am thankful for you and your friendship and your love and just your part in all of this to bringing him home. And your family, Ashley, Katie, they've been amazing. I want to thank Noki. He's been a huge part of this journey, for us. And he's another one that I just love and cherish because of all of the, he didn't give up on Alec either,
Right.
and I remember Noki telling me when this last time that he relapsed, when I was talking to him, because Noki was his sponsor, and being so distraught and not understanding. And Noki said to me, he said, he wasn't ready. He said he wasn't ready. And you have to be ready.
Yeah.
You have to be ready when he's ready.
It's a hard
And
pill to swallow.
it is. And I didn't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to hear that. And I was just like, screw you,
Yeah.
But I also thank God. God has been steadfast in this entire journey. And like I said in the beginning, the one thing that Alec has hung on to is his faith.
Yeah.
And his love for God and his ability to recognize that this is the reason why he is where he's at is because of God. I mean, it's because of his support system, but it's because of God in his life. And he's taking all of this and he's using that to help others right now. And it's just the most beautiful beautiful thing. He's starting school in the fall to become a drug and alcohol counselor.
Love
like, it. You know what I mean? Like he just
Yep.
He's amazing. And it's crazy because he's always been a leader. You know that. He's never been a follower. He's always been a leader. To see him in the roles that he is in with the Oxford House and the men that are in the Oxford House and all of them, they all come to him.
What's cool too that I see the big difference is like we always talked about the 1 year plan.
Yes.
The last time he relapsed, he didn't. He wasn't listening.
No.
He wasn't following.
Mm-mm.
But this time around, he swallowed his pride and he's followed.
He has. He made
You know what I mean?
and he had a conversation. And he made you and me, but you guys had this pact, right? As best friends who have known each other your whole lives, right? You made him sit down and think about what his future looks like and what that's going to take.
Yep.
And you made a pact with him to go a year. Don't get a car for a year. Don't date for a year. Focus on yourself, focus on your healing, focus on your sobriety. And Alec wasn't court ordered to do anything, right? Like he was not court ordered to do his services, his SUD services, or to go to treatment. He did that all on his own. And when he came out from treatment, usually, guys will just kind of go about their business unless they're court ordered to do it. Alec went through all the steps. You know what I mean? He goes to all the meetings. He went through all the steps. He completed his SUD and then some. He did his mental health. He's really focused on his healing, but it's because he wanted to walk this journey and he was ready. I truly believe in my heart and his heart of hearts that he is ready to live a life that was meant for him to live.
Yeah.
And
it's not going to happen overnight either.
It's just like we say, you take your test and make it a testimony. This is his testimony, and it's his time to use what he knows and to use the journey that he's been on to help other people. And that's what he wants to do. Yeah. And who knows what God's plan for him, was. He's on a different trajectory now, right? So he's gonna, God's got him on a different path, and his path is to reach out and help the ever suffering addict. We go by on the streets and stuff, and Alec will say, "Mom, we need to pray for the ever suffering addict," and we pray. And here's another thing that I want to say too, to people that are watching this that may not have a family member that's in active addiction, but are exposed to that active addiction, the streets, the homelessness. Some of the most wonderful people that I've ever met in my life are the addicts. They're the kindest people. Do you remember that day that you went? We went to see Alec, and we brought him food. We brought him Burger King, and we were sitting on that picnic table
Yep.
by the lake, right?
Yep.
We brought Alec
On
some
Marina.
food. He had no food, no money, right? And we brought him the food. We were trying to convince him to go to treatment. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And he ate the food, but there was food that was left, some nuggets and I think another burger or something. And he stopped and said, "Can I go take this food to my friend over there who hasn't had anything to eat in 2 days?" So instead of eating all the food himself, he walked over to this nasty, place. I think it was like a studio apartment or
It
something.
was on Marina Drive. Those
Yeah.
apartments down there.
Yeah. And gave it to, I think it was a female, and she had children, and gave it to her to eat. And I remember saying to you, I'm like, I'm going to get emotional. Even in his active addiction, even in his darkest times, if he has something, he will give it. And that was a perfect example.
Right.
Oh, I can't say that enough. And to always remember that this addiction, there's many faces of it. It could be mental health that has caused the addiction. It could be, losing their job or losing their family. You never know what the reason is for them to be in this active addiction that they are in. Be kind.
Yeah.
Just be freaking kind.
There's enough negativity and bullshit in the world that is circling around, especially in our community too, that is just there. And it's, again, so yeah.
Love them where they're at.
That is so good.
Yeah.
That is the motto. And then you could apply that to anyone.
Yeah.
That is.
And talk about it. Like this, I didn't talk about my son's addiction in the beginning because I was embarrassed and I didn't want anybody to know. Right. And then I get to this place where I'm like, I'm on this island by myself,
Because
and nobody understands what I'm going through as a mom and the hurt and the brokenness that I feel until I started talking about it. I remember one day I was talking to my friend, a good friend, one of my best friends from high school, talking about it. Her son, I found out, had been in active addiction for 10 years. He's a few years older than my son. My son knows him. And I was mind blown because that's another beaver. She had 6 boys. Her and her husband met when they were in high school, like just this amazing family. Her oldest, active addiction for 10 years. Yeah. And I was like, so talk about it,
Don't be ashamed of it.
Yeah, talk about it. Don't be ashamed of it. If people, and people would ask me.
I think the stigma is, well, if you have a child that's an addict, you failed as a parent. It's your fault.
Well, and you feel that in the beginning. I felt that. What did I do wrong?
Right.
What could I have done differently?
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not you. It's not how you raised them, because like we talked in the beginning, we had a very loving, normal, nothing out of the ordinary, and it's not nothing you did as a parent. It's not any failures or, you didn't discipline them enough or not at all. Like even Crystal, her story, she was a successful athlete and, in softball and, and all of these things, and graduated high school and was going to college.
Yep.
Was actually going to college at BBC.
Yep. This one too. Yeah.
And so it's not, if you're a parent, it's not you.
No.
I promise.
No. And that's why I say it's really important to do your research, to learn about addiction, to know where it comes from, because there is a predisposition if you've got addiction in your family, but there is, that some gene that predisposes you to addiction.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think that concludes the episode. That was an emotional one.
Yeah.
I don't think I've not had an episode that's not emotional
I
at some point in
know.
time, but it's fine. It's
Well, these are, these are really important topics and important
Yeah.
subjects that people need to
mhm.
know that they're not alone, whether
Yep.
it's mental health, whether it's addiction, whether it's family with addiction,
Right.
all of the things. It's important for them to know that they're not alone, number one, and that it's okay to talk about it, and just, find your support, do what
Yeah.
you can to get through it. And Jeremy, and I thank you, because I really wanted to do a podcast about, I'm a single mom, so I didn't have the support of a husband, through this journey. And it's important. It was important for me as a mom to tell my story to other moms, that are out there. You're
Yeah.
not alone.
You're not alone. There's you're not a failure
So,
either. So
yeah.
don't think that.
Yeah.
But
So thank you for
yeah,
allowing me to do that.
thanks for coming on, and that's episode 008 of the
Yes.
JBR experience. We'll continue. We're pretty much on a schedule of doing one a week.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's, with everything else I got going on in life, it tends to work out about one a week. So
It's a good therapy session too.
I might go get my
It's really
therapy.
soulfully good.
I should
Yeah.
just go get it. Just add another thing to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the couches that lean
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
Put a pillow behind your head.
Yeah.
Tell me about your day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, continue to share the podcast out. The support's been unreal.
Yes.
It has been very humbling.
With a lot of people that believe in you.
So the support, the likes, the comments, the shares, we got merch now. We got shirts and hats.
Yeah.
So
and if this touches you guys, share it. Get it out there for people to see, because that's the only way that we're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
We're
making a difference, and it's one person at a time.
Yep.
And it's been great. It's been awesome to hear, to have people reach out. So, and if you want to be on the show, you want to be on the podcast, you want to come share your story, all I ask is the willingness to be vulnerable and share it.
Yep.
That's
Everybody
it.
has a story.
That's it. Everyone has a story. So until next week on episode 9, we're almost in double digits. Tune in.
Yay.
Thank you for being here. Love you.
Yeah. Love you.